We're joined today, obviously Malcolm and myself, by the wonderful Dal and Luke from Airfix. Hi.
Hiya.
Hi, gents.
Yeah, how's things with you? Everything right?
Yes. Yeah, we're surviving. Obviously a very busy period here. Very exciting, not just with range launch, but with trade shows and all the sort of fun, salesy stuff that comes with all that as well. So, yeah, but it's good to get yesterday, I'm going to say, out of the way. I think launch went really well. Seems to have been received really well by the community.
We're recording this literally the day after the launch of 2023's products for Airfix. And what sort of reactions have you had to the launch?
Very positive. You always get the vocal minority that are, wrong scale, wrong subject. Whatever we do, we'll get that. I think Gannett's taken people by surprise in some respects, and definitely Ferret, the two sort of headline products this year in the classic range. But it's nice to see the positive reaction to the starter sets as well. I think people appreciate that we've put a lot of time and effort into trying to bring people back to the hobby or get people into the hobby to begin with. So, it's nice to see that sort of reaction.
Focusing on starter sets tooling and those products and putting that investment does take away from main range, if you like, but it won't be a long-term schedule of releases for starter sets. Yeah, we will get to a point where we're done, and then we can start to put that resource back into main range. For the enthusiast-led products, we can do more of that, but we have to focus on starter sets for a short period in terms of resource.
When will they be available to buy then?
So the F-35 will be the first to be released. That is due March in all three of its guises. Mm-hmm. I think it's March in all three of it. Yes, it is in all three of its guises. So the starter set, we've paired it up with the Mark 5C starter set Spitfire, and of course we've paired it up with the Lancaster Dambusters B3 Special in its 80th anniversary packaging. So all three of those products should be with us by March, in time for the anniversary in April. And then what else have we got going on? We've got some re-releases coming through. I forgot to pick that off the printer. Yeah, we've got some of the P51, the Dambusters. What else? There was a third product that was free.
Mosquito.
And the Mosquito. Yes, the 72nd scale Mosquito, that PR16. So they will certainly be the first three, actually, this year that will be released, because...
Tempest.
And the Tempest, yes. Because we've already got the packaging here, so there's sort of pre-shipment samples. They turned up the other week. So it must admit, it was really odd when we released the Spitfire last year, the 24 scale Spitfire, that we then had to remove coming soon off our website, a big banner and list of products, because we just... we didn't have anything that we hadn't announced. So that was quite nice. But then a period of going, well, can't talk about anything at the moment because we've already done it all. So,
and I'd like to see the Bond bug is back on there as well.
Yeah, the Bond bug that was considered missing for God knows how long. We had been told by people that worked here when it was a Humbrol company that the Bond bug had gone missing many moons ago. So to be able to dig it out and get the test mouldings without the clears and see how pristine it was. It's a lovely bit of tooling. It's only been released twice in its life. Obviously, it's missing those clears, but we see that as a bit of an opportunity as well to improve the kit. So we've reverse engineered the original parts, but brought some improvements in that. If you're familiar with Bond bugs, you'll know that the sides aren't glass, they are vinyl, whereas the kit parts were just straight pieces as if it was a solid material. So we've actually included some nice rippling in the sides that wasn't on the original kit. A classic piece of automotive history, isn't it? And a classic bit of Airfix history as well, so it's nice.
That was last released in 1975.
Yeah, I think it was originally tooled in 71.
Yeah.
And then, the second release was 75. It was never seen again till now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
We've been contacted by the Bond Bug chairman, of obviously quite a following of them in the UK, and they contacted us yesterday saying how amazing this was. So hopefully we can do a bit of work with them around product release and have a car park full of Bond bugs.
Be very nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. If we go back to the quick builds, you've got two new toolings. You've got the London Taxi and the Route Master.
three new toolings.
Oh, sorry. What was the third one? What have I
McLaren Speedtail.
Of course, yes. Interesting choice, I thought, especially the Routemaster.
Yeah. So Taxi and the Routemaster, the focus really was on a different theme. Instead of just supercars and aircraft, we thought we'd try a different area. London transport stuff sells well for sort of tourist destinations in the UK, sometimes abroad in airports as well. So sort of just looking at the market, at what sells and what would fit into that range quite nicely without it being a world apart from the existing ranges. So you could put the Taxi in London and the new Routemaster next to P1 and Aventador and stuff and the Chiron without it looking massively out of place.
It's as if it's driving past Kensington where all the nice cars are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the model is huge. It's 80 odd parts. So it's a bit of a toe in the water in terms of price point and size of model as well. It's our biggest quick build to date. It is quite a beast. So we'll see how it goes. So and of course you can't do a Taxi without doing the bus. And we felt that it was right to go modern with both instead of the old Routemaster and an old Taxi. We just wanted to sort of go modern. And then we've got the Speedtail. A lot of our quick build has been around now for the best part of 10 years or so. So we just wanted to start to refresh some of the original supercars. And the McLaren P1 was one of the originals. The Speedtail, if you like, starts to supersede the P1. And it's quite a cool looking thing. From the front, you can clearly see it's a McLaren, and then it's got this really sort of odd looking shape to the side and the rear of it, which is quite cool.
Yeah, it is a strange shape, isn't it? It's kind of almost like a XJ220, the Jaguar.
Yeah,
came out in the 90s, I think it was.
A bit like the old McLaren F1. Was it the F1? It was the F1, wasn't it? That was the road car. You sit in the middle of this and drive it. Not that either of us have had the opportunity.
No.
I don't think we get the insurance.
That's not part of your research, Luke. That's something that needs to change, isn't it? Surely.
Not on quick builds, but on some of the start set ones, I did get to have a bit of fun. So that was good.
Your starter sets. Now, I want to talk to you about the Land Rover. Now, there's a reason for this, and I'm going to be very naughty. Is there any link to you having this to the other branches of your business, i.e. Scale Electrics, etc.?
We didn't share CAD, I can tell you that.
We haven't decided to do this because Scale Electric were doing something. That's not the reason. We obviously released the Jaguar E-Type in this series, 43rd scale. We really wanted it to become part of its own little range, like classic cars. And we felt that the Aston Martin DB5 had to go with the Jag, and we was then looking for a third product. And the Land Rover is very iconic, not out of place in that range, and also 41st scale is O gauge rail, so it's sort of not that we're really focusing on O scale rail stuff, but it sort of made sense really. Yeah. We of course as a group. Hornby Hobbies Limited, we try to help each other out with contracts and royalty contracts and things. We try to make our business overall as appealing as possible to potential partners. We already have a partnership with Land Rover, their agency. The Bristol Bloodhound that's being released this year, would you believe it will have a Land Rover license line on it because it includes one. So, albeit we won't pay the full royalty rate because it's just a part of that set. So, Scale Electric were able to really jump on an existing agreement that we have as a business. I'm not sure if Corgi have any Land Rover stuff. I'm not familiar with everyone's range. There might be some Land Rover stuff in the sort of scale scenic that Hornby does, and Scatter and stuff. But it's just coincidence that with Scale Electric have done a cool Series 1 Land Rover.
What helps is that Lyndon, our CEO, outgoing CEO, is obsessed with Land Rovers as well. So anytime we say Land Rover, he's jumping on that straight away. Although we have to try and keep him away so we can do our own research. You might question why we did the long wheelbase version of the Series 1, and that's mainly because it fits with the other cars in terms of size. So we had this choice of doing the Diddy Land Rover, we started calling it, and when you put that next to the other cars, it was a lot shorter. So, and we went with the 107-inch wheelbase, which was quite a rare Series 1. So I actually think it's the first time that model has been kitted in any way, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's a good addition, I think, and I think that the particular mark as well is the right one. Yeah, it seemed like a logical thing.
Scratch build loads of stuff on the back of that.
You can do the recovery cars, which are just lovely. You know, you've got a big sort of winch in the back, crane, and some lovely handwritten, sign-painted sort of versions as well. The lovely thing was we actually based this off of a surviving one, so there's not many of these ones around.
No.
So we went to a place called the Dunsfold Collection, where he has lots and lots of Land Rovers. And the one you see on the box is his, as our way of sort of saying thank you for letting us 3D scan and use yours as a sort of example.
Lots of people are going to do some amazing things with that kit. I can just picture lots and lots of scratch building going on already. You know, people thinking about what they can put in the back of that Land Rover.
Yes, yeah, and I really like the idea Luke's just mentioned with the recovery truck, and you know the fact that you could have that all beaten up outside a little, you know, village garage with a Jag E-Type sat on a lift of some sort. Yeah, it's a lovely rounded range now, that starter set collection, and we've still got another couple of years of some introductions there. I'm not going to hide that, but it will certainly start to slow down a little bit as there's a few areas that we want to cover off still. All being well, we can then start to push back over onto our classic kits.
So talking about your car range and your vintage range, obviously the Aston Martin, again, a good choice, I think, personally, but I'm going to ask you, why that one? Why did you choose that one?
Probably the most famous car in the world, isn't it? So when you're looking at a range of classic cars, you sort of have to include it. The E-Type and DB5 in our heads, synonymous with British engineering, automotive engineering in the 60s. So, and it helps that it's connected to a certain film series. So,
which is nothing to do with why we've done the product.
No.
And whenever you think DB5, you always think a silver one. So, not connected to any film whatsoever.
Q has not been involved.
So scratch building and accessories are clearly linked behind the choices here. I'm seeing a trend.
Yeah.
Well, if you think for the expert modeler, you might think that, but it's solely aimed at the beginner and people returning. But if you're experienced enough, you can do what you want with it. So
we've had some lovely feedback from the range we released last year of people saying, you know, I wasn't too sure about this because I've been building models for the last 10 plus years or so, and it's listed as a starter pack. You know, why would I build a starter pack? And people have built them and gone, oh, do you know what? I really enjoyed that. It was a nice, I'm going to say simple, because it is simple. There's still 30 odd parts, most of them, but it was just a really enjoyable build. And if you're not modelling because you enjoy it, then you've mostly got some questions to ask. So yeah, it's good. And we've seen some photos that have come through with people that have really gone to town on them, and they look amazing. You know, to get a metallic paint job on anything is quite a skill in its own own right. So people can do some amazing things with the starter set products.
Yeah,
they're fantastic as sort of mojo starters. You know, if you're doing a massive 24 for a 48 kit, then you just want almost like a palette cleanser, something to remind you why you enjoy the hobby. That you don't have to struggle with, and they're great for that.
You know, if you're doing an Anson, for example, or the Gannet in 48 scale, then and you've only got 2 hours one weekend of that you can give to modelling because you've got other commitments, you might not want to start anything on the Ganson. That's a new thing that we're coming out with. You might not want to start anything because you know that 2 hours isn't enough to mask up something and start spraying, or you don't want to only half spray something. So you might be kicking yourself thinking, I've got 2 hours, but I don't want to do modelling because I'm only going to get so far in that, and I don't want to leave it half done. A starter set you could finish in 2 hours. Equally, you could mostly spend a month on a starter set subject. So it is there for everyone. We just label it starter set.
I did get to have a ride in the DB5 when we were researching that one.
Were you there with the measuring tape inside? That was why you were in there, was it?
Well, yeah, and then it just started up and started moving. So, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I got to ask, actually, in that respect. So, when you were sat in it driving around, were you pressing all the buttons, hoping something would work, or?
I didn't want to touch anything. I was being driven, as you should in the DB5, maybe driven around in it, and I didn't want to touch a thing just in case I broke it. So
his title's really got to his head. He's got a chauffeur and everything.
It's not too bad.
He gets driven around everywhere.
Yeah, well, it means you can do more work, doesn't it? If you get driven around, you don't have to concentrate on driving and just be working then.
I've also heard rumours of that he's got a special wardrobe of wigs now and disguises to hide himself while he's out doing his work.
The museums, yeah.
Well, if I go to a museum with this TV series, someone was saying, "Am I going to become Paramjit famous?" Which I don't think I will, but if I do, I'll shave off my hair. Glasses are going to become contacts, and there'll be no beard, so you'll never recognise me. It's fine.
Maybe this is already your disguise already, and actually,
I just remove the fake nose comes off.
Yeah.
While we're on the starter sets, let's just quickly have a look at this. This is a welcome addition as well. So this is the Lockheed Martin F-35. It's an interesting aircraft. I know you're not going to say, but I'm going to ask. I mean, obviously, it's in the smaller range. Are you likely to do a bigger version?
Honestly, there is no plans at the moment to do a bigger version. You have to look at the market.
The quick build one's bigger in terms of scale.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Yeah. No, so people have done F-35s in other scales. Would it have been nice? Yes, but we've focused on some other areas for now. Could we have done a classic kit as well? Yes, we possibly could have done. It would have detracted from something else. Starter sets have to be, as we've mentioned with the cars, have to be relatable instantly. F-35s, for various reasons, are very relatable at an air show or just off the news or whatever. So we felt that it was the right thing to do, was just to focus on getting that product into the starter set range. We've had the Eurofighter in our gift set range for a long time, so we felt that the F-35 was the better option there to go and work on that.
Air show season starting up soon as well. That'll be a hit, won't it?
Yeah, so whenever something flies and we've got a model of it, you'll see sales of that particular model type increase. React F-18 flew or something, and then all of a sudden people coming in going, "You've got any F-18s?" Yes, I have. React when the F-35 came through, the amount of people coming in and saying, "Have you got an F-35?" No, not yet. So, not that we could justify the tooling purely through air show sales alone. It's certainly a steer for that segment of products within the business.
Can we talk about the Ferret next?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the Ferret Scout car, the Mark II. Is there any reason why you went for the Mark II, not the Mark I?
Mark II, I would say, is probably the most famous variant. So if you search Ferret Scout car, it's going to come up with the Browning machine gun turret version. Not to say we're not aware of the Mark I and the Mark I-II with their slightly different variations. But, if you look at the Berlin Wall going up, Ferrets were there. You look at Cyprus, Ferrets with Mark IIs primarily were there. So we thought we'd begin with the Mark II because it's the one people associate the most. So it's my favourite version of it, if I'm honest.
I guess with a little bit of fettling here and there and a bit of scratch build, you could probably make it a Mark I as well, couldn't you?
Yeah. Take the turret off and then just fill in part of that top part and you're there, really.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe a mount for a Browning, but
it was one of those typical conversations that we often find ourselves in, where someone say, "No, you need to do one of these yourself, thousands of them." The person said, "Oh, Ferret Mark II." And I just thought, "Oh, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Ferret Mark II in 35th scale."
Not injection moulded, though.
No. So I messaged Luke and just said, what are your thoughts on this? And Luke went off and did a bit of researching and digging and just went, "Yeah, we need to do it now." Fingers crossed we are first to the market with it. We're not aware of anyone else doing it, so we're quite well advanced with the tooling. We've got test shots of that. We're waiting for the second stage test shots for that. So it's a lovely model. It's the same size as your passport, and I only know that because when the test shot was built, I was out somewhere, wasn't I? And Luke sent me a photo of the Ferret just sat on his desk in the office, and I said, "Oh, I can't gauge how big it is." And he put his passport next to it. Yeah, Ethan's really gone to town on the detail of it as much as we can at 35th scale, and it is obviously it's quite a small vehicle, and keeping in mind price point, part count, all that sort of stuff, we feel like we've got the balance right on this. So opening hatches on this, we've got the radios front and back, because obviously you could drive the ferret
in reverse fast as you could go forward. The ferret is interesting. As I say, it's sort of our first foray into armour at this scale by ourselves. And the problem with the ferret is, and this is maybe why it wasn't done, it's a small subject at a bigger scale. And when you're only doing injection moulding, you do run into issues with that. So, armour's very much used to having pieces of photo etch to represent pieces, and it's not something we do. Plastic can only go so small, and at scale, you start to notice some differences. That is a limitation of the moulding, but I think Ethan's done really well to get what he's got out of it. It's a great little kit, and the highlight really is the suspension assemblies. They're quite complicated, but really accurate, and we're quite proud of that. Okay. After visiting enough ferrets, they should be accurate. So,
got to drive one.
Drive one.
Absolutely gutted.
I almost killed Nathan, our cameraman, at one point because he stood in the back trying to film, and I was gunning it.
I was meant to go on that day with you guys, and I was too busy here doing some boring spreadsheet stuff, and all of a sudden I get this photo and a video of them running around a field in ferrets, and I was so
it was great. The guy who actually let us drive him around, amazing guy. He owns loads of military vehicles. He also has a K2. And he said, next time you're up, you can drive the K2 ambulance. I said, you've got about 3 ferrets. I don't mind if I break one of them. If I break the only K2 you've got, then I feel quite bad.
Well, while you were there, were you looking at other things thinking, we can make those,
But anytime you go anywhere, you go, that would be nice. Doesn't mean it will happen. But we travelled enough places and saw enough ferrets, because you want to make sure that, people haven't bolted stuff on after they've left army service, or different regiments haven't bolted bits onto them. It was important to get around the country and view as many as we could in different conditions to try and see what was original and what wasn't, and whether we can include optional parts. So
we went to Biggin Hill, didn't we?
Yeah, there was one on the drive.
Yeah, it was we were driving through towards Biggin Hill. Luke just went, there's a ferret on that drive.
Under a cover, you could just see the ferret outline on the front of the ferret.
For a short while, we just couldn't get away from them.
Everywhere.
It's an interesting subject, and the lovely thing with subjects sort of that were in service relatively recently. So, it saw service in the first Gulf War. So there are people with memories attached to the ferret, which is a really nice thing. Whereas if it left service pretty quickly, it entered service in the 50s. Yeah. The living memory would start to disappear. Whereas the people really have stories attached to these, and there's so many in private ownership now.
We had loads of people posting photos of their ferrets that they have they've had a relationship with. That was very apparent yesterday with that. And my dad once drove a ferret down Akatiri Runway, I think it was, in Cyprus, and he's always said to me, whenever you see a ferret, he always says, I drove one of those. And if he watches this now, there's the mention, my dad drove a ferret down Akatiri Runway. And that is not why we've done this. But even yesterday when we got home last night, and he'd watched a range video, and he went, you didn't mention that I'd driven a ferret down. It's done.
Done it, out there now. Have you got ideas of variants or decal options and things like that yet?
So we've tried to spread the decal options across the life of the ferret. Okay. So the first one is, so there's this story behind what we call the A scheme, and Eric Schulb, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but anyway, schoolboy in West Berlin, sort of in the early 60s, said that he'd been harassed by some East German border guards on his way to school. So the British Army responded by giving him a ferret escort to take him to school to make sure he wasn't bothered. 30 years later, he admitted that he only made up the East German border guards to miss school. The British Army had given him a ferret to follow him. The B scheme shows something quite different, actually. So Batus, the Rangers out in Canada, a range safety vehicle, bright red in places to make sure that it doesn't get hit by tanks firing their guns. And it doesn't have a Browning machine gun, so we've included sort of the extra panels it wears and the blanking plate for the Browning, just so we could do that scheme, really, because it's so unique. And then one thing everyone, apart from Berlin, sort of people link with the ferret is maybe Cyprus during the Turkish invasion. So we've done a Cypriot scheme as well.
Or white ones.
Well, yes, UN, but this one actually predates the UN intervention. I believe it's when the Brits were trying to sort it out ourselves, essentially. So it's the Paras. So we tried to represent different parts of the ferret service. Obviously, it was so varied. You're never going to please everyone. There's so many places it saw.
They did so much with them as well, didn't they? Yeah, in active service, they had rocket launchers bolted to the top that were twice the size of the ferret itself.
Well,
there was tons
we did
of stuff.
look at, so there was a version, the 2.6, that had the Swingfire missiles. I believe it's Swingfire. It might be Vigilant. It had 2 sets of missiles on the side, and we went to the Isle of Wight to visit one because we were determined to add it in. Because essentially it just looks like these rockets were bolted onto the side, but soon realised there was a lot more to it in terms of how the turret moved, because it had to be geared rather than just pushed around because of the weight of these missiles and extra sights, extra ways it folded. So soon killed that idea, but I'm sure some scratch builders will sort it out. One of the times I saw, we were talking about not having a ferret scale models, in injection moulded. I went to the Midland Model Show, Hinckley. I believe you have a stand there. I was speaking to one of your members, and he had a few of the, I think it's Accurate Armour, or it might be the Kit Form Services kits, and they were a phenomenal ferret. I think there was a Stalwart as well, and some other bits like that. And it's always nice to be talking about something when they don't know, that you're about to release something. So it was nice sort of going, oh, did you know it had this? Because you've just researched it, but it was some really nice models by some of your members as well.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, fantastic.
So yeah, really excited to see the British Army truck in the range. When we were down one of our first visits, I said to you that I really wanted to see some more British vehicles in 135th in the range. So this is fantastic to see it. Tell us about the journey.
The choice is pretty obvious, and it pairs so well with our other 35th scale vehicles out there. And they were used so widely during the Second World War in various campaigns. So it just made sense. We do this next, really.
We say used widely, and they were. But one thing you realise with soft skin is that no one took any photos of them, which makes finding schemes so hard. So there's loads of photos of these on the Dunkirk beaches. But if you look carefully, they were actually possessed by the British government. They were civil trucks, so they had different wheels. The version we've shown actually is after Dunkirk. It's the military version, essentially. And trying to find any decent images, reference images, is a real struggle. And it's the same with all soft skin subject matter. Everyone takes a photo of the pretty Spitfire or the big imposing tank, but the sort of the commodities, the utility vehicles, fall by the wayside quite a bit. So it makes modelers' lives and my life a bit of a nightmare. But
because there were so many of them as well, people have just not kept them.
Yeah.
Well, there's so few examples still kicking around that
there are 3 examples of this truck still around. One's now in Russia, and 2 I think are in the Czech Republic. So that's shows that there's only 3 examples we know of. None of them are in the country. One was recently restored in the country, which is where you get a lot of your photos from. But yeah, trying to find reference images from that period is really quite difficult, especially once it goes east. Firstly, you've got a language barrier when you're trying to search up archive material, and to a certain degree, again, just didn't care about them. Why would we take photos of these boring lorries and boring trucks?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of those lorries actually were repurposed after the war, weren't they, for construction? My father worked for a company called French's. All of their vehicles, or anything that had wheels, basically was from military service while they were building the new towns, etc. So there wasn't any respite for them. They were just worked into the ground and
they wouldn't have been looked after. They're there to serve a purpose and do a job, and you would literally run it into the ground. At the end, it's not museum worthy. That back then, people quite often weren't even thinking about, maybe we should keep a couple of these and throw them away anywhere. You're not doing it. when I sell my Vauxhall Astra, I don't think anyone wants it for a museum anywhere.
But I'm pleased you've got it. And I will be tapping you for a bit more information about the Dunkirk side of stuff, Luke. So thank you for that little tip, because I didn't know that.
Not a problem. I go through these so that you guys don't have to.
Just be gentle when you're tapping it.
A lot of dioramas, a lot of extra scratch building will be going on with these trucks, the same as the Land Rover, I suppose, when we talked about it at the top of the show. There'll be lots of potential for extra bits and pieces to be added. Is it going to come with soft skin options as well? Or
if you want to just build the model, spray it with a rattle can and sort of say job done, then yeah, great. You've enjoyed the build. It served the purpose. Great fun. If you want to take this and scratch build loads of parts, and then take it and put it into dioramas, or you could do tons and tons of stuff with it. If you want to buy different wheels or put a canvas cover over the rear, then you can. If you get the same amount of enjoyment out of that as someone has to spending 30 minutes putting a Spitfire together. So you can see in the rear, there's the sort of hoops, if you like, over the back, which is just towards the front bulkhead. Mm-hmm. So if you like, well, we believe that they are the canvas holders.
Yeah.
So you would stagger them down the rear of the truck, and then the canvas would go over. So they're not posable parts, if you like. That's just one moulded piece, which in theory would be 3 or 4 parts.
Mm-hmm.
On the real vehicle. So, but that wouldn't take, he says, to get some decent sized rod and shape that and put canvas over it.
Especially if you're going to put something over the top of it, you don't have to worry about what it looks like underneath, do you?
No, I mean, you can easily do that with wire. You can do that with rod. Yeah. You can even do it with sprue. It's not difficult. I say it's not difficult. It's a little challenging, but it would be part of an interesting journey anyway. So yeah, there's loads you can do with that. To a degree, I suppose what would have been nice would have been the separate parts for that as an option, but to put a canvas cover in a kit for maybe not being used is expensive. It's not really needed.
Raise the price as well. It's a lot of space in the tool if you put a canvas cover.
You've got to draw a line somewhere, and for that, that's where we drew the line. So others would have wanted us to continue and end up with a 400-part vehicle. That's not what we were going to do ever. So
a bit of garden wire, tissue PVA, and you've got yourself a canvas.
Every canvas is unique.
So the one other thing in which I want to congratulate you on, the 148th Fairleigh Gallant. Oh, it's just so ugly. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It hit every branch on the way down, but I love it for it.
I really love that. With the research of this, Luke, what examples did you go and look at?
So the initial scan we did was of the T2 at Baggington, so the Midland Air Museum, and they were super helpful. The T2 they have, I believe it's owned by the Fleet Air Arm, but long-term loan to Midland. It's the only example in the UK with the wings down, which was sort of important. We had a big meeting beforehand, how the designer wanted to go about it. Did you want it scanned wings up or wings down? What's easier to reverse, essentially? Mm-hmm. So we decided wings down was the best, and there was only one option then. We scanned that one, and because it's a T2, it's I think it's the earliest example still in existence. So it's got lights on the underside of the wing, which was only on the very early batches. So there's a few bits that we had to be careful of. And to counter that, we visited pretty much every AS variant Gannet in the country. So we got loads of photos. I think we went to Duxford. We scanned an AEW just to see how different it was, and essentially decided it's a whole new airplane. The thing you think would be the same would be the wings, different geometry and different wing folds. So drew a line there. But in terms of AS variants, we visited Duxford. We went to the Fleet Air Arm Museum to look at their COD variant because that's pretty pristine, and some others. The only AS ones that pure AS, so the ones in the UK, either got converted to COD or ECM roles. So they had a few aerials bolted here and a few bits added. You've either got Germany or Australia. There are a few in Indonesia, but that's a bit out of our remit in terms of research. So we used a guy in Australia to send photos of one of their AS1s, which was lovely of them. Loads of walk-around photos. And it sort of captures a Gannet in its early time frame, because they only ever used AS1s. So you're not looking at a late airframe and trying to work out what changed. So essentially what I'm saying is we looked at any Gannet we could get our hands on, or virtually get our hands on.
And I'll be honest, with the wings folded there in that picture, yeah, it's a joy to look at. I got to be honest, that's certainly on the list for me.
We also did scan, I should say, the one at the Berkshire Aviation Museum, and they were super helpful. So we scanned it with the wings folded there, so we could get both geometries, which was very good of them to let us do.
Just up the road from me.
They're working on the Gannet at the moment, and they're trying to do a big restoration on it. So hopefully we'll see a brand spanking new Gannet in the next few years. It'd be nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be really nice, yeah.
With the wings fold mechanism, can you remove the wing fold mechanism to make them flat, or is it the same as a separate part that you have to?
Separate wings. So essentially, you've got 2 lowers, 2 uppers for the wings out, and then the wings folded is almost a totally different set of parts. So you've got 12 parts to the wing fold, 6 each side. So because it folds into 3 sections, and those are split into 2, obviously an upper and a lower each time, plus the bits to show the actual mechanism on the fold, if you will. They don't share a lot of common parts between the versions, and that's why previously kit manufacturers haven't done it, because it's such a complex mechanism, you can't share parts between the 2 easily. So if you look at classic airframes, for example, I believe that was only ever wings down, and you had to buy a set to convert it. It's because it's so difficult to do. And it obviously takes a lot more parts, a lot more space in the tool if you're doing injection molding. So,
you guys have also done obviously the carriage up and down, and obviously you've got the bay that can be opened underneath the bomb bay as well.
Yes, yeah, we've sort of gone all that, and we've got the radome, which can be stowed or deployed as well. So if you've got the in-flight model, you can show the radome lowered, which was one of my things I pushed for.
Oh, right. Which bit's that? Sorry.
So the big dome at the back behind the bomb bay, it'll be on one of the renders. You can just see it on that to the left of the bomb bay. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, yeah, see that little lump just behind the bomb bay door on that image?
Yes.
That deploys down. We'll have to add a better render onto our site so you can see it. So there's plenty that goes on, and there's a big weapons load, as you can see on some of those images. Torpedoes, sonar buoys, flares. It's sort of got everything. Depth charges as well. So
wow,
and rockets.
And rockets as well. Amazing.
Yeah.
With all that though, does it come with a pilot?
Comes with 3 pilots, 3 crew, I should say.
You didn't expect that, did you?
Well, I did not.
Wow,
no,
I didn't. No, I didn't notice that at all.
But I can appreciate the amount of work that's gone into that design. So well done.
Well, as we speak now, Paramjet is inspecting the first shots because we received them. So plastic's looking very good. Speaking for Paramjet there, he might have a whole list of issues. So far, the surface details looking very nice.
I mean, it's only first test shots. So there are normally tweaks that need to be made. But in terms of fineness of lines and rivets and all that sort of stuff, it looks very, very nice.
So tell us about the Meteor as well, the FR9, as that's also new for this year.
1/72nd scale Meteor kit. We released the F8 late last year, the 72nd scale, which has gone down really well. And for the club, we've always wanted to make the club a kit more than just a decal change, which is quite often what they've been. We try to make them as special as possible without having to pull loads of resource internally and take it away from main range. And when the F8 was designed, the parts for the FR9 were included. So we've sort of had that in the wings. You guys know that we do that quite often and where we can. And we basically nicked it for the club instead of putting it in the catalogue this year. So if it wasn't the club kit for this year, then it would have been another product that we announced yesterday. So it is a new tool from last year, and the parts included have never been released before from us and won't be in the main range this year at all. So that obviously includes the different nose. There's rockets as well.
That's the main change, yeah. So when we do a club kit, you also get the chance to do something a bit different in terms of deco options, as we've done previously. So the A scheme is pretty standard. It's probably what we'd have gone if we were doing a FR9 in the classic kit. But the B scheme being from Ecuador, that we call the oddball scheme, something that we perhaps wouldn't consider normally. But it presents itself as a club kit to give something unique, which is nice to do.
It's amazing how many people from Ecuador have come out on Facebook and said, "I love this." So,
wow, yeah.
You only get one kit in the box, but with 2 deco options, and we're not making it available to buy a second one at the moment. So, it costs £30 for an annual membership. For if you're in the UK, you get that kit as part of that fee, and then you get all the other benefits like flying hours passports, which of course you can donate to Models for Heroes if you don't want to use them yourself, magazines and competitions and bits and pieces. We are looking at exclusive products, but not kits. I guess my core is to focus on main range and things that are going to make us more money than others. So that's that. And if you think that the Meteor, the F8 Meteor retails about £24, I think it is off the top of my head. For an extra £6, you get to be a club member and the FR9 variant and the passports and everything as well. It's not going to be a bad choice to make.
Can you join the club if you're Ecuadorian?
So you can, yeah. So I wasn't going to mention the B word, which is Brexit, but obviously a lot of international trading from the UK changed as a result of that. And that meant that we can't send products free of charge out from the UK anymore. And essentially that we charge for the membership and the product is sent free. So the mechanism of that had to change to ship anything outside of the UK. And even, I think the Isle of Man is classed outside of the UK or mainland. However, things are shipped. I tend not to go too technical, as you can tell. So we've had to set rest of the world memberships up slightly differently. So you pay a one-off fee to be a member. You complete that transaction, and for that one-off fee, which off the top of my head is about £10, you are a member. You get access to the membership area. You can download club magazines. You get your 10% off the website, and you can enter the competitions and bits and pieces. So that's what you get for £10. You can then, because you are a member, buy the red box. The red box becomes a chargeable item. We have to charge for postage. Postage rates outside of the UK are horrendous. So if you do live in Ecuador, you can get one, but sadly, you will have to pay postage to Ecuador. I'm sure if you signed up to the club membership and then phoned the customer care line here, you could mostly bundle loads of stuff together. Well, you could actually. So you sign up to the membership, complete that transaction, you could then add the red box plus a load of other stuff from our website and still only pay that one postage fee. There is a way of spreading what seems to be quite a large charge for postage across multiple items. You don't. It's not charged per item, if that makes sense. So.
Talking about rest of the world shipping, we use foreign experts quite often for different parts of kits. They've got different resources than we do. One of the projects we worked on was Spitfire 18, the Indian scheme that goes in that, and we had a air marshal help us from the Indian Air Force. Yeah. And I said, what can we do to thank you? And he said, I'd like the new Mosquito kit. So it's the B16. I said, okay, I don't know how I'll get it to you. He said, send it to the air attaché in London. And we've got a plane that comes in. And the plane that comes in is a C-17 to Bryce Norton. So he shipped the Mosquito via Delhi.
If whichever country wants to ship stuff via their own aircraft.
So if you're Ecuadorian and you've got a regular slot into Bryce Norton, then there you are.
So that's your avenue. Wow. I assume they shipped other things as well as putting the Airfix kit on.
I like to think they just put the Airfix kit on it, but I feel like they must have.
Do you think they've strapped it down? The loadmaster received that and just went, right, okay, I don't know how to deal with this one, boys.
The last one we're going to talk about with you is obviously the special 80th anniversary Dam Busters Lancaster that you've done. Wasn't expecting that. You have actually done it as a boxing by itself, but you also have done it as a gift set, I believe, with the F-35.
That's right, yeah. So catering for two markets there, if you like. Obviously, gift sets are gift sets with the F-35. That includes 2 stands. So obviously you get the Shadow stand with the F-35, it being a starter set tool, and then we've included a stand for the Lancaster as well, which obviously you don't get in the classic kit. The other one you've just shown, I think it's the Series 9 kit.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the gift set, of course, you get all the paints, glues, brushes, etc., etc. So yeah, and for the anniversary, Airfix has a history of Dam Busters, Operation Chastise gift sets. So previously, we've put things like the old tool Dam Buster Lank with tornadoes, or they've been on their own or whatever. And when we were looking at this year's range last year, it was like, okay, well, what anniversaries we got up? Right, F-35, 617 Squadron. We can't miss this opportunity, can we? So there is a version of that classic kit in our 2022 catalogue, and so you'll find it on the website as well. Is it one deco options the same and the others different?
It's 2 deco options, from what I remember. So we've gone with, because it's the 80th, we've gone with the most famous aircraft from the raid, which is obviously Guy Gibson's as the cover piece. But then we've gone with a different one, which I don't think we've kitted before or done a decal scheme for, which was Les Monroe's aircraft. Obviously, Les Monroe was the last surviving pilot of the raid. It sort of felt apt to put a scheme that we hadn't done. You know, there's only a limited number of aircraft that went on the raid, and to have not done one, we felt like we should. As Dale says, we've already got it in the range from last year, but for this anniversary, to refresh it, just to remind people what it's about. And we have to breathe life into these products every now and then just to make sure they can stay relevant.
Huge potential for lots of dioramas as well, dropping that bomb. Just trying to think what people could build with it.
The diorama that comes to mind as you say that is this year at Telford, they had I think it was a 32nd scale one with the splash coming up to meet the aircraft. That was really quite something. So I'd like to see a 72nd scale version of that with our kit.
So when you saw that, did you think, oh, nice, but it's not 1/72nd?
Yeah, it's not our kit.
We're going to be talking to the chap who built that particular diorama, aren't we?
Yeah, we will be very soon.
It's like you asked me to do a link there or something like that for your next episode.
Oh, no. Just ensuring you listen, Luke. That's all.
Yes, yeah.
What are you most proud of this year in this recent launch you've got coming out?
I'm going to say ferret. There's a few of us here, you know, myself, Luke, Martin upstairs, that really sort of bring the range together. Luke does a hell of a lot of work on saying, right, okay, this product hasn't been out for a little while, and you know, we could do this really cool scheme, and you can see that in, you know, all the cool schemes we've got coming through this year. Luke has really been able to make his mark, really. I sort of come along and go, right, yeah, okay, numbers wise, this sort of is looking in the ballpark. Yeah, I don't want to do that because of this reason, you know, let's do it next year or whatever, or we've got loads of stock that left, it didn't sell too well, so let's just rest it for a little bit longer. Very rare that I come up with a new tool that we then really push forward straight away, because we're working so far ahead. To come up with a new tool and make an impact relatively quickly is quite rare. I put the ferret card on the table, if you like.
Dale suggested the ferret, and then we had Ethan start pretty much straight away. So there was a gap to fill. We needed products.
It never
happens. You know, designer turnover, just, well, a lot of people stay a long time. So have it suggested, the research gets started, and then someone starts and need a project. It just are sort of aligned.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to the ferret, because I can shut my dad up as well. I really like armour. I like building, but then the painting side, I get quite frustrated, especially when I see all the cool stuff here. So build it, spray it, bit of mud or whatever else, and I've enjoyed the build. So I'm really looking forward to the ferret.
I go Gannet to be different. You know, it was a labour of love for me. There was a lot of research that went in the initial stages, and it's still carrying on now with these first shots, making sure that we've got everything accurate. The amount of travelling, reaching out to various archives really felt like fighting uphill to get it over the line sometimes in terms of research, because it's not a subject that's been covered. Think of 109s. There's so many books out there, Spitfires. Yeah. You go to Gannet and you do have to do a lot of the footwork yourself, which makes it proud at the end when it all comes together.
We even bought Luke a selfie stick because of the Gannet, because he couldn't take photos of the cockpit. So we bought him a really long selfie stick, put his phone on the end of it, and then start to take photos of the inside of it.
It's a 4-metre pole.
It's a bamboo cane with some gaffer tape on the end.
Yeah, you've seen it then. What about you guys then? If you could only pick one, what would it be?
It's difficult.
While you think about it, mine is the Land Rover. I think that's going to be incredibly popular, and I would love to build one. And I can think of at least 3 people I know of that will be over the moon to build one of these. I mean, absolutely overjoyed. So that for me is the pick of the group. Because it's a starter set as well, I assume it's going to be relatively simple to put together and a low part count. So it's going to be an accessible kit to a lot of people. I think that's going to be a fantastic product. I imagine it'll be in your range for a very long time to come. And I can't wait to get my free copy of it in the post. So how it works.
James is now going to ask for the most expensive kit.
No, to be honest, I've already got 3 in the shopping basket. I mean, I love the Gannet. I'm with Luke. It is just so ugly. You can't not admire its beauty. But the bug also, yeah, I just think you've done overall an amazing job across the range. And I think you've really hit the mark. Just very, very quickly, we do have a couple of comments that I can quickly do. Adam Greenwald says, all the new starter kits look great and are good to bring new blood into the hobby. The Gannet looks awesome. Mark Sanderson says, the Gannet looks great, but I recently built the Trumpeter version, but I do like the Ferret. Shame not a lot on 172nd aircraft new molds.
I was going to say, I really do feel for all those people that maybe just finished the classic airframes or Dynavector Gannet, curse their way through only to be rewarded with an Airfix Gannet. It's the modeller's curse. As soon as you put a lot of effort into a difficult build, you know that a manufacturer will announce it. And I can only apologise, especially those that were hoping to sell their Dynavector kit for 250 or whatever the classic airframes is going for.
We do like upsetting people selling stuff on eBay. The 72nd scale comment, we know there isn't much there in 72nd scale this year. It's just the way that the range has been built. In previous years, not necessarily last year, but in previous years, there's been more 72nd scale new tools than there has been 48. I guess it swings and roundabouts. It's not what people want to hear that build 72nd scale, but we've only got so much resource and so much cash in the bank to spend on new tools. And, at the moment, for this year, then, that's the roll of the dice, if you like. There will be years where we upset 48 scale builders because there's no or very little 48 scale stuff. Unfortunately, we can't do everything. Apologies, but that's just the decision that we've
with the plans in which you've got for the quick builds and that end of the market, if you like, to bring people into the hobby. I think you've covered all the bases. I really do. I mean, Mark Cunnington says no matter what they do, Airfix will never please everyone, which is spot on. Mark also says the Great Western was a pleasant surprise, but he'd love to see some 54 figure range reissued. Kevin Butler says the Dan Buster set is on his radar. Also, the Hunter and the Gannet look like they're going to be awesome. I think the overall opinion of everybody is that you've done a smashing job. Yeah, well done, you.
Yeah, really pleased that you guys like the range and listeners like the range, and we look forward to seeing you during the course of the year, of course, with all the new stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we'll catch you at some model shows. Where are you going to be this year? Do you know yet?
Well, we'll definitely be at Telford, Reat, Bournemouth Fair Show, and one or two of the Duxford ones at the moment. Maybe explore some model shows. Yeah, maybe just put on the polo top and walk around, not have a stand.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale.
Thanks very much. See you soon. Cheers. Bye.